I did have some big plans for today, but you know how Texas weather is. One minute it's gonna be sun shining and 85 degrees, and looking at the 10-day, it's just not a good time to do what I had planned to do today. I had even taken the whole day off work to do this thing today. Let me show y'all what I was gonna do in my cut flower space and why I am delaying it. This space probably looks very familiar to y'all. It's where we laid drip tubing just a few weeks ago in order to prep for the cut flower space. And since we put drip tubing in, I did already put some plugs in the ground along the drip tubing. These are all straw flower that I started from seed all the way through here. These are pink bachelor's buttons that I grew from seed. We got some dahlia seedlings that I started from seed. One has come up, but it is looking kind of deformed. I think it's gotten some insect activity on these already. Dahlias are kind of a magnet for that, so not too unexpected there. And then some scabiosa, some salmon king scabiosa down through here. And my plan today was supposed to be zinnia seeding day. That's usually a task that takes me all day, and during the fall and winter months I kind of hoard specialty zinnia seeds so that I can have a big cut flower space just full of zinnias every summer to make bouquets from and things like that. But looking at our 10-day forecast, as Texas does, it has gone from really warm to now showing that we're going to get thunderstorms all week and then have nighttime temperatures down in the 40s. That is a problem for zinnia seeds because they don't really benefit from being placed in the ground until the soil temperature is between 70 and 80 degrees. Nighttime lows of 40 degrees are not going to get us there. And there are a few things that can happen if you seed your zinnia seeds too early. Wildlife can pick them up and carry them off, or in my case, if I were to seed them today, and it is a fairly big investment for me to buy all those zinnia seeds, they could get washed away when we get thunderstorms all week. So not only are they not going to germinate because they need the soil temps to be warm for 5 or 6 days in a row in order to come up, but with all the rain, they're just going to get washed off if they don't pop off right away. So it is not a good week to plant the zinnia seedlings. It's just not a good investment of my time at this point in the garden and in this point in spring. So we are going to delay the zinnia seeding process for a while, but I did want to update you guys on a few things in the garden that are doing really, really well so far this spring and talk you guys through one of my favorite flower beds, which is a bed full of perennials. The star of the show right now this spring is right behind me. Look at this thing. So this is a bridal wreath spirea. Let me get y'all closer. Y'all are probably sick of hearing me talk about this plant, but it's truly one of the best parts of spring, at least for me. I just love this shrub. Does it get any better than that for a spring flowering shrub? I don't really think so. It just shines like a beacon out here right now. It is so bright, pure white. And these will hang on for weeks. They're just beautiful. I am also a really big fan of this shrub's habit, the way it just kind of arches. It's very graceful and open, and we did have some of this plant get hit by a really, really late cold frost, so it's not as covered in blooms as it usually is, but I still think it looks just spectacular. And bridal wreath spireas bloom on old wood, so all of this is last year's growth, so as soon as it's done blooming, I may come in here and just trim it up a little bit, cut away some of this dead stuff, and just size control it slightly, because if you let these go to do their own thing, they can get like 8 by 8 or even bigger if they're in a situation that they really enjoy. So I probably will come in here and size control it. It's laying on top of a Caryopteris right now, so we don't really want that for the growing season because this Caryopteris is a showstopper in the fall, and I don't want its growth to be stunted by this spirea laying on it all summer. Speaking of getting ready to be just in full unbelievable bloom, look at this rose. This thing is loaded, and it's a really dark purplish pink. It is so pretty. I will have to update you guys when this thing's in full bloom because it's just gorgeous. Anyway, let me show y'all this flower bed that I want to introduce you to. It is one of my favorites because it contains a lot of lavender, and lavender is hands down my favorite plant. And a lot of other cool things. I just kind of want to walk you guys through what it looks like here in the first month of spring. Starting on this side, so this flower bed is a big, almost like bean shape. It goes around the outside and then kind of swoops in right here and makes like a kidney bean shape. Some of this was here when we moved in, but a lot of it I have planted up and expanded myself. There goes maple with a container. Delicious, I guess. Fun to play with. So this is a spineless prickly pear. It's a cactus, and in the summer it makes huge yellow blooms that the bees go so crazy for. They absolutely love it. This is some iris that I recently transplanted here. This is a phenomenal lavender. This thing is having its best year. It is huge, and it is kind of flopped open in the middle, which is not that big of a deal. You'll sometimes see lavender do that when they're getting older and just bigger, and I don't really worry about it. I actually honestly kind of prefer it because it exposes the center of the plant to more sunlight and airflow, and usually you will get new growth starting inside near the crown of the plant when that happens, so I'm not really worried about it. But this is one of the oldest phenomenal lavenders that I have, and it just loves its spot here, and it will be in full bloom here pretty soon. I got asked in a comment recently to give an update on the Skydance salvia seedlings, and I will, but just to give you guys an idea of what Skydance looks like in the flower bed, this is what it will look like, that the bees go crazy for. Moving this way, we have another phenomenal lavender. It's obviously much younger than this one, much smaller, but it will eventually touch this one after a couple of years. These plants that you see right here with this serrated leaf, I have another one right here. This is all a type of salvia called Duelberg salvia. And it's an interesting story on how that salvia got its name, because it was found growing near a gravesite of a guy named Henry Duelberg by a Texan here in Texas, and therefore it was named after that. And it was just found to be super drought tolerant, very cold hardy, just kind of out there living in the elements, had seeded itself and continued. This does seed itself quite a bit. I find this Duelberg salvia all over the place. I'm fine with that because the pollinators absolutely love it. But there are several big clumps in this flower bed of that Duelberg salvia, and it's really, really easy to propagate by cuttings as well. This clump is all Nepeta. We got some creeping rosemary, yucca, more Duelberg salvia, a little homestead verbena, so cute. So here are another variety of lavender that I have found to work really well. Sorry about all the dog barking. They're really going for it this morning. This is the other lavender variety that I have found to do really well in my garden, which is Super Blue. It is an English lavender. And as you can see, it's putting on a bunch of fresh spring growth. It will be the first to bloom. It will bloom before Phenomenal usually, and it is so fragrant. You can just walk by and smell this lavender blooming. It is so beautiful when it's in full bloom. I'll have to come back and show you guys this. But I have found this English lavender, this Super Blue variety, to be really tolerant of all the rainfall that we get in the spring, because we get the majority of our annual rainfall in the spring. That's just how this part of Texas is. It packs it all in, and then we'll go from like May through September without a drop. So some lavender really cannot tolerate that level of moisture around its roots. It'll just rot and die. But this English lavender does not seem to mind it. It's the Super Blue variety, and it's one of only like 3 varieties that I have found to do well in my garden space. So if you see that one, make sure to pick it up, give it a try. It's been a real winner for me. So right now, a favorite of the bees is all the salvia that's blooming. This is a May night, But right next to it is the white one, which they really seem to prefer. Once it warms up a bit this morning, this thing will be just absolutely loaded with bees. You can see a couple on them already. If you are looking for a salvia to bloom first thing in the spring and start feeding your bees and butterflies really early, these Salvia nemorosa or woodland sage are it. The bees absolutely love them, and they started blooming, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, and they'll keep going. As long as I deadhead them, they will just keep blooming. This is a lavender seedling. I grew these from seed this winter. Started these from seed probably back in December. So obviously they take a while to get to size. Once we warm up consistently, they will just take off. This is a variety called Fat Spike, if I'm not mistaken. I've never tried it, but I am excited to try these. I have 1, 2, and 3 that I would like to get established in this flower bed. Moving right along, we have Russian sage right here, a buddleia that I transplanted from somewhere else, lots of liatris. That's what these little grassy things are. Here. Here, I started those from corms. I got a really good deal on those at Home Depot. I got like 50 corms for, I want to say like $10. Can't quite remember now, but they all took off and started growing, and I hope that they get nice and tall in the middle here and fill that out. This whole blank area right here is Zexmenia, and if you're not familiar with Zexmenia and you garden in Texas, you really should consider growing it if you can get your hands on some. It is just so tough. It is also known as hairy Wedelia, and you can just forget about this thing and it will take off and do so well. It doesn't need anything from you. It's not on irrigation. It doesn't need to be fussed with. I just come in here in the early spring and take off all this dead growth, and then it will immediately start to pop back out. I've been dividing it just because it has kind of seeded itself around and taken over this area quite a bit. Started to crowd out my catmint right there. But this is just such a good choice. It's bright yellow. Butterflies love it. It's a very drought tolerant, tough native. Highly recommend it. I want to mention to you guys this lavender because obviously it looks different from the rest. This is one of the oldest lavender plants that I have in my garden, and it should be obvious, but the center has died. And I just recently cut it out, and as you can see, the sun has started to hit the lower portion of this plant, and it has started to push new growth all along it. So the thing about lavender is it doesn't really appreciate being cut near the woody base of the plant. That will actually usually kill the plant if you cut lavender deep into the woody base. In this case, I went ahead and took the chance of cutting all the way down near the crown of the plant just because there was so much dead. And I think it was just getting too wet down there. It had so much leaf litter on top of it that it was not allowing proper airflow, which is my fault. I don't clean up leaves in the fall. I just kind of let them fall and decompose where they're at. But in this case, I should have removed the majority of them because it was rotting the plant. So I went ahead and cut it away, and I'm hoping to give this lavender the chance to just kind of fill back out. If it doesn't, no big deal, but that is kind of where I'm at with this lavender plant in particular. I think this one is maybe 7 or 8 years old at this point, so that is old for us. You know, there are lavender that when grown in their preferred environment, which is a very low humidity, like they're a Mediterranean plant, they're native to the Mediterranean, so just think of that kind of climate. When they are grown in that situation, in the space that they're native to, they can live for decades. But for us, where we're growing lavender where it doesn't really prefer to be grown, even this phenomenal variety, it was bred to be grown in the south, but we can still struggle with it just because we get so humid and so hot, and they do not appreciate that. I just try to limp them along as best as I can, and typically have really good luck if you care for them properly. If you guys have lavender varieties that you like to grow that you have found have done well, let me know. I always like to try new lavender, and I just want to show you guys one more thing before I let you guys go on my oak leaf hydrangea. Look at this guy. ready to go. We're gonna have blooms here not before too long. It will be spectacular.